Well, pay attention to me.
Either he wants to say something or eat something, one of the two.
Take the opportunity to put our musical interests.
Acting, dancing, and now singing a Grammy winner.
Those movies, and particularly Night Shift and Gung Ho.
Really? Never knew that.
Place yourselves in position to receive the oath. Do you all solemnly swear to be present at our 87th annual convention at Chicago?
I do.
Me too.
Welcome to Just Talkin'. We have a great show for you today. We are here at the Arcada Theatre in St. Charles, Illinois, and here for the Laurel and Hardy Film Festival for the Sons of the Desert. So let's go on in. Here at the Chicago Bacon Grabbers tent, and I'm with your name?
Gary Cohn.
Gary, let's hear all about it. What's the event going on today?
Well, we're celebrating 50 years of the Chicago tent, Bacon Grabbers, and we're showing some Laurel and Hardy films, plus some other goodies. And we meet every other month or so and show locally Laurel and Hardy films and Hal Roach products. So it could be Charlie Chase or some other product from the Hal Roach studios. But we're mainly Laurel and Hardy aficionados that show Laurel and Hardy film.
That's great. Now, and you guys get a great big turnout. And these are comedians back in the 20s. Why do you think people are still coming out today just to pack them in?
Easily because the material was so good. They were so funny, so basic, and their comedy is timeless. If you see current comedians, they do copy Laurel and Hardy. They started in the silence, so their silent films played all over the world, so there was no language barrier. Their humor was just spot on sight gags, so that's why it played everywhere, and they continued that through their career. A lot of their sound films also just have silent or pantomime, and Oliver Hardy had the great camera look, and Stan had the hair scratch. Those are universal. Everybody knows that little bit of action.
People want to get involved in this tent. Do you guys have any guest speakers, or maybe you tell presentations on it?
Yes, we meet at Addison Village Hall, and we talk about Laurel and Hardy. We give some inside facts about making of the movies because some of us knew the players because of our longtime association with this convention or organization. We tell the stories that were told to us firsthand, from Anita Garvin, who was in many of their movies, to Lois Laurel, Stan's daughter, Oliver Hardy's widow. She, had wonderful stories.
If someone wants to learn more about Chicago Bacon Grabbers tent, where should they go to? Facebook?
Go to Facebook, look up Bacon Grabbers Chicago. That's our Facebook page, and we give all the information when our next meeting is, where it is. It's the Addison Village Hall. And I also put in videos that I make from the past conventions of people that were in those movies in the history of our Sons of the Desert organization. We've been taking pictures and videos since 1978, so I have a very good library of our history. And I put that on the Facebook page with stories that were told to me by some of those people and other things that I find out.
We are the sons of the desert, having the time of our life, marching along, 2,000 strong, far from our sweethearts and wives gone.
Get on with your name?
Mark Yurkiv, and I'm the Grand Sheikh of the Chicago Bacon Grabbers.
Okay. And what is a Grand Sheikh?
The Grand Sheikh is a figurehead who presides at meetings and does the raising of the toasts and stuff like that. But according to the Constitution of the Sons of the Desert, has no authority whatsoever.
You're actually showing the movie Sons of the Desert today.
Yes.
What is so special about that movie, and that kind of start all these conventions?
Well, the Sons of the Desert is the film that the Sons of the Desert organization is based on and patterned after. In that film, Laurel and Hardy are trying to get away, and they want to go to a convention of the Sons of the Desert, which is like a It's like a moose or a elks or a raccoons or something, an organization that they belong to, and they have to come up with a story to get away from their wives, and they're going to this convention that's in Chicago. And the first convention of our Sons of the Desert was in Chicago as well. Yeah, and so the Sons of the Desert was established in the 60s by a gentleman named John McCabe, who he was a author. He wrote the first biography of Laurel and Hardy. He befriended Stan Laurel, and he approached Stan Laurel about maybe starting a fan club or something. And Stan Laurel didn't want a fan club, but he thought maybe something a little more scholarly. So how about an appreciation society? And so they knocked around a few ideas, and they came up with this, and they based it on that film, which was started, I guess, by these 5 guys in New York, and they would meet at their favorite watering hole in New York. And then what happened, and what they weren't expecting, was that there were branches that popped up in other places around the country, and since then internationally. And so we're called tents. And we are number 10. So we are the 10th one that was established, and it was 50 years ago in 1969. So this is our 50th anniversary. And most of the tents are named after one of their films. And so we're named after Bacon Grabbers, I think because that happened to be one that somebody had a film print of. And at the very first meeting of the Bacon Grabbers, their film program was just that particular 20-minute short. And so that we're going to show that tonight. And they're showing Big Business because it's for the season. They're going door to door selling Christmas trees, and then Sons of the Desert is in honor of our whole now worldwide organization.
And why do you think the Laurel and Hardy has lasted this long? You guys have got a packed house today as well. What's your feelings?
I think because they are universal, and they're in this together, and whatever trouble that they get into, they try to help each other out of it. And it's pretty much the two of them against the world, and I think that can be something that people can relate to, and I think any generation all down through the years, I think it still holds, you know.
Okay, here we are at the Sons of the Desert event at Arcada Theatre, and I'm with your name?
Matthew Hoffman.
Matthew, what a great event this is going on today. I like the fez hat. Now, what's your role here in
Well, I'm the program host for the Pickwick Theater classic film series, and the Chicago Bacon Grabbers asked me to introduce the Laurel and Hardy films today. So, I've had a lifelong love of Laurel and Hardy. I've shown their films at the Pickwick Theater. I used to run a revival theater many years ago, the LaSalle Bank Theater. I showed Laurel and Hardy films there. So I was really honored when Marcia and Rob and the Chicago Bacon Grabbers asked me to say a few words about these films today.
So you're like the Ben Mankiewicz of Chicago then. Well,
I guess you could say that.
And I have been to the Pickwick Theater. That is really beautiful. I love going. It's that nostalgia with these old types of theaters. Well, you are showing the famous Sons of the Desert film today. Do you have any fun facts or info that you can kind of share about that movie?
Well, with Sons of the Desert, this was a film that producer Hal Roach, he was sort of steering the boys into feature films at this time. They had been primarily doing two-reeler shorts. They had made just a couple feature films prior to this, but Sons of the Desert was such a huge success around the world, and what makes it so special is that the comedy is so well integrated into the storyline. It's not just these separate bits of comedy, but it's actually worked into the story, which makes it really fascinating. The film was directed by a gentleman named Bill Sider, who was no stranger to comedy. He had done a lot of comedy films. He had worked a lot in the genre. I know he had worked with another comedy team that very few people know today, Wheeler and Woolsey. He did some of their best films, but Bill Sider really shaped the direction of this film. I think that added a lot to the film's success.
So, someone want to learn more about the Pickwick Theater and your film series, where can they find out about it?
They could go to our website. It's www.parkridgeclassicfilm.com. We show classic films once a month from September through June. So we've got some good stuff coming up.
Excellent. Well, we thank you so much for coming to this event today. It's a great event honoring Laurel and Hardy, and thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
You see, the Sons of the Desert are giving their annual convention in Chicago next week, and Stan and I are going.
And I am with your name?
Bill Oates.
Bill, nice to see you today. So you're involved with the newsletter. Let's hear about that.
I'm the editor of the newsletter and have been, this is my 5th year. Well, it's everything Laurel and Hardy internationally. About half of it is tent news, which is news anywhere from Chicago to England, the Netherlands. We have readers in Australia. And then there are articles. Right now there's a series on Stan and Ollie in vaudeville.
I think that's great because even though people in the Midwest are watching the films and involved in Laurel and Hardy, but internationally, worldwide, why do you think that?
I think it's because they limited the dialogue, and Stan always believed that you don't need to talk in a talking picture unless you have to. So much of their movies involves physical comedy.
Any interesting facts you could tell us about Laurel and Hardy or the Sons of the Desert?
Well, right now I'm doing this series on vaudeville, and it's amazing how their lives are intertwined with vaudeville, more Stan's than Ollie's. He was in it only briefly, but Stan spends quite a few years, and that's what brought him to America with Charlie Chaplin and some others. But this whole group has grown from one film. In the 70s, they formed a group in New York called the Sons of the Desert, and then the first convention was held here out by O'Hare in 1978, and the Bacon Grabbers hosted it. And every 2 years, the international convention meets somewhere. This next summer, it'll be in Warwick, Rhode Island.
If anybody wants more information about the newsletter, how can they get a hold of it? Or
it's very simple. It's called the Intratent Journal, itj.inbox@gmail.com.
And you too, with the rest of the sons of the desert.
Okay, here we are at the Laurel and Hardy Film Festival, and I'm with your name?
Rich Kaplan.
And Rich, let's hear all about it. What brought you out today?
We've been Laurel and Hardy fans. I've been since I was a little boy. So once we found out about the club in Chicago, the Bacon Grabbers, we joined 48 years ago. And I was the Grand Sheikh that was at the first Laurel and Hardy convention, was set up in 1978.
Well, how was it back then?
It was amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, and I remember the last day when we were checking out of the hotel, I was talking to the people at the front desk, and they said, this is the wildest convention they've seen since the cats got loose during a cat convention there. That's the kind of convention it was. We met each other for the first time. A lot of people were fans and knew each other via writings or telephone calls, but this was the first time we got a chance to meet each other.
Did you expect this to last as long as it did?
Well, since Laurel and Hardy had lasted that long, we did expect it to continue because their form of humor just sort of goes on and on. It isn't so topical to the current time that you say, well, 2 years later it's out of date.
And Sons of the Desert, why do you like that, or do you like that, and then why?
Yeah, that's one of the best ones. Babes and Toyland is another one of the best ones, way out west of the long ones. And then there's just a whole series of shorts that are, just great, I think.
All right. Well, I know the festival is going to get started, so thanks so much for talking with us today.
Nice talking with you.
Right, nice talking with you.
I'm with the Chicago Bacon Grabbers, and you've probably been hearing the Bacon Grabbers mentioned several times. That is the local chapter of the International Laurel and Hardy Appreciation Society, the Sons of the Desert. But there are Laurel and Hardy tents or clubs all around the world. We're all named after different Laurel and Hardy films. We're the Bacon Grabbers because our founder, Chuck Huck, that was the first film that he bought from Black Hawk Films, and it was the first film he showed at a Bacon Grabbers meeting. So we're the Bacon Grabbers.
I wanted to say hello and welcome you to our Arcada Theater. I'm Ronald St. My brother Rich is back there. And we grew up on Laurel and Hardy as well. And I got to say that I'm so excited that the Bacon Grabbers and all of you are here today to celebrate what I hope will be a tradition of a long history of Laurel and Hardy events here at the Arcada Theater. So, I wanted to pledge to the Bacon Grabbers and the whole Laurel and Hardy community in general, whatever we could do here at the Arcada Theater to help increase awareness and keep the memory and the tradition alive of not only Laurel and Hardy, but also all the other greats. A couple of really brief things. I know when I get to the films, but I was asked to give you a couple little pieces of history about the Arcada Theater and the connection to Laurel and Hardy. First of all, this place, this grand gem of a theater, one of the only ones left in the country that has been continuously operating since the Roaring 20s, September 6, 1926, when it first opened, was built by Lester J. Norris. Really quickly, Lester J. Norris was an illustrator. He grew up with his best friend, Walt Disney. Walt went his way. Lester J. Norris went his way. He was like the Entertainment Tonight guy. He would go to all the vaudeville shows, and he would, this is at a time when photography and all that wasn't so prevalent, so he would draw all the vaudeville acts for the newspapers. He worked for the newspapers. So he got to know the Little Rascals and the Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy and everybody, and that's why he vowed to build a theater one day if he ever came into money, and then he would host all these great people that he happened to befriend. And it turns out he married his high school sweetheart, Delora Baker, who actually had a couple shekels in the bank with her uncle and her whole family. They had the patent on barbed wire. Yeah. And today known as braces, I guess, but it's actually actual barbed wire. And they had also, I keep forgetting what the oil company was that they started, Standard, Texaco, whatever it was. Somebody here, probably a lot of historians know what it was. But anyway, and that was the first thing he did, was to build this grand palace. He wound up loving the silent film so much that little known fact about Hal Roach, who I know you all know intimately, he was in dire straits financially. And Lester J. Norris came in as a 50% partner and helped fund many of those Keystone comedies and many of the Arcade comedies, and of course Laurel and Hardy stuff. So that's why you'll see a photograph of Laurel and Hardy here backstage with Lester J. Norris if you stop by our speakeasy. So about 2 years ago, I got a call from a gentleman. He said, you don't know me, I'm from Minnesota, and my aunt just passed away. We cleaned out her house, and there's a box on there that says Arcadia Theater. I said, we're the Arcada Theater. He goes, yeah, it's Arcada Theater. And I said, is this the actual Arcada Theater in St. Charles? I said, yes. I said, we don't know the connection of our aunts, but we found this box. And in this box were all these pictures of vaudeville stars autographed to a Mr. William or Bill Pracht, P-R-A-C-H-T. And he, it turns out, Bill Pracht was the first general manager of the Arcada Theater in 1926. And these were all the photos and stuff from his office in a box, buried in a lady's attic in Minnesota. We don't know what the connection is. Who knows? Maybe she was a little, flapper girl, maybe, who knows? But maybe she got it in the settlement, so I don't know. But in this box was a true treasure, and I share this with you all. This is an autographed picture to Bill Pratt at the Arcada Theater from with Stan and Ollie. So this is one of our treasures that we keep here at the Arcada Theater. I'll have it up here, or maybe I'll have it I'll have it maybe on your display out there. But you'd like to see actual photo autographs and signatures from Stan and Ollie. So once again, I want to welcome you all to the Arcada Theater. Hope to see you folks again. Any suggestions and anything that you have, any ideas you have about fostering this art form and fostering these specific characters, you just let me know, and 10 minutes later it'll be done. Have a great day, guys. Thank you so much.
Okay, here we are in St. Charles, Illinois at the Arcada Theater, and I'm with your name?
Ronald St.
Ron, may I say, I'm very impressed on this theater, just the nostalgia of all it. Let's give it a little history of the Arcada Theater.
Sure. Opened September 6, 1926. It's one of the oldest living vaudeville era movie theaters or vaudeville houses that's still going. It's never been closed. It's always been ongoing. And about 15 years ago, it was going to be turned into a kind of an office building. And we kind of renovated it. We saved it for the Wrecking Ball, and now we're the #1 live music venue in the Midwest. Not only holding all the great rock and roll shows like stuff from the 50s and 60s, but also some of the classics like your Neil Sedaka, Wayne Newton, Paul Anka, but also events like the one today, which I'm very excited about Laurel and Hardy.
And that's what makes it the nostalgia of it is you got an organist player in there, silent films as well. So besides this, do you show silent films or old films throughout the month?
Oh, absolutely. Once a month, there's a Tuesday. It's usually the second Tuesday, but that changes a little bit. But we do the silent films. We've done Buster Keaton, just all of them, and we'll do a couple, 2 or 3 of them. We'll try to do a longer one. We'll do a couple shorts. We'll do some historic introductions of them. Some people come in character. It's a very cool experience.
You must have a love for movies or the movie theaters as well.
But it is the era, I was brought up, every Saturday and Sunday morning we're watching Abbott Costello or the Mickey Rooney movies or just all the black and whites, and I was brought up on that. And there's just, as the folks out there, your audience knows, that there's just something about the black and whites and how the nostalgia of it all. So I have several properties here in the Chicago area, and they're all based on these types of things, anything from the 20s to the 60s.
Excellent. And then you have a bar concession stand as well?
Yes, we have your classic popcorn stand, kind of an old concession stand. But on the 3rd floor, what I put in about 3 years ago in honor of our 90th anniversary of opening in the vaudeville era, not the vaudeville, but the Prohibition era of 1926. Was an actual 1920 style speakeasy. Over 400 antiques. There's a secret doorway to get in there. Flapper girls. There's a stage up there. Floor shows. It's a very, very cool experience.
We want to tell our audience to come on down. Best place for more information. The address.
Oshows.com. That's the letter O. Shows.com. And we love Wisconsin Friends. They have so many people come here. They make the trip. It's not that long.
And the address here as well?
It's 105 East Main Street. We're right downtown St. Charles.
Arcada Theater, and I am with the great organist for the event, Jay Warren. Jay, nice to see you today. Well, first of all, how did you get involved in playing the organ?
Well, started it with any good Polish kid from the northwest side of the city. We started playing the accordion as a kid, and we just saw that all the cool kids in the neighborhood played the organ, so we had to morph into that. That's one thing led to another, and we discovered theater organs in the theaters, and silent films also were part of the experience, and here we are.
You did a great job as far as timing with the movie as well. How does that come about? You watch it and then try and find pieces to match it?
Yes, well, we've played those films before, so that helps. Yes. But there's certain tricks of the trade that you use, and where you can hold notes or A notes or build on a chord and then let them have it.
Right. So what's sort of the experience of doing organist with a silent film, like the reactions from the audience and things?
Oh, well, I can tell when the audience is really into it. Today, these guys were really into it, and it was a pleasure to perform, and they get it, One of my early observations was playing Phantom of the Opera. This is a casual audience, not a dedicated audience per se, curiosity seekers coming for the first time perhaps, and I hear the popcorn and the candy wrappers, and suddenly when the Phantom speaks to Christine through the wall, we take the accompaniment way down and ominous, and everybody shuts up, and I know I got them.
Right. And that's true because the silent. Why does that work with playing a silent these silent films? Because they bring in all these people again, and what's sort of the experience that they?
Well, the organ and what we do with the organ is, without being corny, it is the voice of the silent screen. So the actors are emoting to a sense of perhaps exaggeration sometimes, but it has to be to convey, along with the intertitles in the film, the plot and their character, etc. And we embrace that. We don't want to overplay a film. The film should speak for itself, so we embrace it and we kind of try and play underneath it.
You played here today. Do you do this often through the Arcada or somewhere else? Where can we see you perform?
We play throughout the Chicago and Midwest area. I'm here at the Arcada once a month for a silent film. And during the last year, I played over 60 films, right, throughout the Chicagoland area and Iowa and Michigan and Wisconsin.
Well, you did a great job today. It was a great event. We needed that for the silent film, and thank you so much for talking to us today.
Honolulu, baby, where'd you get those eyes and your dark complexion and a right of line?
At the Arcada Theater for the Sons of the Desert event, and I'm with your name?
Rob Beerelli.
Rob, what did you think of the event today?
I love the event today.
Now, you're involved with the Bacon Grabbers, or let's hear about it.
Yes, I'm involved with the Bacon Grabbers. I founded 2 tents in Connecticut in the past, and I belong to the Bacon Grabbers here. I live here now.
For those who don't know about the tents, what is involved in these tents?
A tent is a chapter of the Sons of the Desert where we honor the persons in films of Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy. The Bacon Grabbers meet currently in Addison most of the time, but it seems like we might be coming to St. Charles once in a while because we had a great time today, and they seem to enjoy having us.
And this is kind of nice. So what's going on after the movie here?
We're having a banquet at the Club Arcada, which is a beautiful 1920s style speakeasy. And we're having Ron's Italian Feast, which is from Ron and Nestie's grandmother's recipe from long ago, and wonderful, wonderful food.
What's one of your favorite Laurel and Hardy films?
I have a hard time choosing one over the other. I love Sons of the Desert, and I haven't seen it in a few years, so it was really, really great to laugh as hard as I did today.
Why is Laurel and Hardy so funny all these years?
Because they have a genuine gentleness. They're just really decent human beings who struggle along, and at the end of every movie, they keep on moving on, despite everything that happens.
Why should someone join one of these tents?
If you like to laugh and like camaraderie, and want to have the fraternal friendships that like Laurel and Hardy had for each other, I've made lots of wonderful, wonderful friends in the Sons of the Desert.
Well, thank you so much. Great event today, and enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you.
Thank you.